So I'm going to do a quick demonstration of making a contact sheet in Adobe Lightroom Classic 2020 version of CC. I've already kind of laid out my file, how I would make a traditional contact sheet in Lightroom when we'd be printing things. And I'm going to suggest for at least the current time, we modify this slightly in order to have a little bit more, a little closer look at our files, more pages, I suppose, but a higher resolution or larger size. So I would normally lay out my files to be approximately an 8.5 by 11 size page. And I prefer 20 to a page when we're looking at contact sheets. So that would actually be 4 and 5. And I would normally say, hey, it's a good idea to do rotate to fit, because when we're printing, we can just rotate the piece of paper 90 degrees when we are looking at it in real life. In the case of being online, our screens are wider, and it makes more sense to make a horizontal layout instead of a vertical one. So that's kind of what I had set up there. But knowing that these are going to be small images on possibly a small screen, my suggestion is that we work with probably 6 images to a page, which I'm gonna try this real quick and see what it actually looks like. So I'm gonna change my size of my image to be probably, most screens are maybe like a 3 to 4 ratio. So I'd say we call it 8 by 12 maybe. So I'll make my height 8 and my width 12. I mean, that's a 3 to 4 ratio, I suppose. I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna turn off rotate to fit. And I guess I would say that this feels pretty good. The same time, maybe we try doing something like 3 and 4. See, I have a large iMac screen, so I think that would work pretty well. But on a small 12-inch laptop, I wonder. So that's why I would normally say 20 images to a page, but on a screen that small, that just gets really pixelated really quick. And I'd rather not have things feel pixelated. So let's go with 3 by 4. That seems like a fairly good fit. You could go with more to get rid of the space, I suppose, if you had all verticals. But I know that I have, I have 8 pages now. I've got 88 files that I'm importing. And I've got some that are horizontal and some that are vertical. So let me just kind of scroll through second page. Oh, okay, that seems like it works fairly well. So I like that for horizontals particularly. And for verticals, it's a little more awkward, a little bit more space, but I feel like I can still see them enough to give good feedback. I've got a bunch of bracketed images in here, so there's like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of one, well, 11 of one scene. So you're probably not going to have as much bracketing as I would normally do, but I think this will work. All right, so let's say, I'm going to just go through the tabs, starting at the bottom, working my way up. So we're really talking about one at a time. Make sure you're on print to JPEG file, otherwise it's going to actually try and print it. This will make an individual JPEG file for each page. File resolution, it's at 300. If we want to be able to zoom into that, we may want to bump that up, and I'm going to say 600. It might make my computer really slow, so later on I might say, oh, wait, back that off, go back to 300. But this will allow us to really zoom into our images a good amount, fill the whole screen with one, and get not incredibly pixelated. Default of print sharpening is low, glossy, those are fine. JPEG quality 100, that's good. We just set our custom file dimensions. And since we're not actually printing, I don't think we need to worry that much about color management. We'll focus more on that when we get to our final files that we would want to save in a way that we could print them. All right, I'm going to go up to page. So I've already gone in here and done this. This is what I normally do for a contact sheet, which is weird to say contact sheet because it's really a digital proof, but the darkroom name is always contact sheet, so it's stuck with me. So if you want to change your name, you can go in here to edit. You could make your file larger, smaller. I like to make it rather small, a gray that's kind of not distracting, put it off to the side. But I'd like you to put your name in there so that we know if we're opening up a file from one of the people in class, we know whose it is and who to give the feedback to. All right, and you can easily scale the size just pulling the slider back and forth. So I think something like that's fine. You could put page numbers in if that is important to you. So that way, you know, page 1 has a little 1 in the right corner, 2, 3, 4. Just for organizational purposes, that seems like a fairly good idea. And then I always put the file name at the bottom of my images. It can be a little distracting, especially in this sort of presentation, but it helps us to make sure that we go back and grab the right file to edit. If, for example, I've got those 11 images here, they're all the same composition, just different brightnesses. If I grab the wrong image based on the contact sheet, I start editing it, I get 90% done, and I go, oh, I got to restart that and throw it away. If I have the file name number there, I know what to search for, what to pull up, and which file to edit. So just a strong suggestion there. It also gives us the ability to tell you, because normally in a contact print, we would pass it around the class and just like write on it. And we're not able to do that the same way here. So we can all make sure that we're talking about the same image when we're giving feedback. Okay, guides help you lay out the page. You got rulers, you got page bleed, margins, gutters, image cells, you can even have dimensions. These are all things that will not show in the final file. They're just for helping you lay out things. So keep that in mind. Okay, layout is where we really do our adjustments. We can adjust our margins, left, right, top, bottom, our page grid, the number of rows or images in a row and a column, cell spacing, being the spacing between the files. And then cell size is kind of automatically put in for you. You could keep square if you wanted, and it would relatively evenly space them. And I would say, since we're not printing, we don't need margins. So I'm going to get rid of the space on the left, the right, the top, the bottom. Well, now that I look at it this way, I go, will that look funny? I don't know. We can still give feedback on it, but okay, it feels awkward to me, so I'm going to put in 0.1. All right, that feels a little better, just so nothing's falling off the edge of the page. And then for cell spacing, we probably don't want much either in this circumstance. We want the images to probably be as large as possible. So I'm just going to put in 0.1 for those. That way nothing's butting up against each other, but it will minimize the wasted space. All right, then finally back up to image settings. Like I said, you do not want to have rotate to fit on if you have a mix of horizontal and vertical. You want them all to stay the same direction so they're easy to view on a laptop screen or whatever device you're on. So don't do this. That's a little awkward. You also wouldn't want to do zoom to fill because it's going to crop your images, and that's not a good thing. And repeat to 1 photo per page is not a good idea either, because it is just the same exact file number on the page for the entire page. So don't do that. And then I tend to put on the stroke border. By default, it's rather thick like this. It's probably 0.1. And I always just pull it all the way to the left. Your personal choice, whether you really need it or not. I think it works well for an image that might be overexposed, like this one, to be able to talk about the composition and go back in later after we've talked about the contact sheets. And maybe you can see if you can recover the detail or crop out an area that's got some exposure problems or other things. So I like to have that just so that it helps with the kind of determining the composition. All right, so now that I'm set there, Keep in mind that you could select some files and not others. So I have gone in and I could grab, random, oh, this one, this one, this one, this one. I've just gone Command A to select everything in my film strip and populate it. And it's going to make me 8 pages. All right, so I'm going to go over here to print a file. And I always like to name my things in a clear structure. So I'm going to real quick go into my hard drive and show you all my files are in this iFi folder, which is a weird name, but there was a purpose for it at one time. And then I name everything by year, month, date, and some sort of describer. That's where I have all my raw files. And then what I'll do is I typically make another folder underneath that has the date or all the info. And the words contact sheet. So that way, if I'm doing a search, I can find that folder and make it, or pull up just the contact sheet. I'm gonna go ahead and hit save. It's gonna prepare the job. It's gonna take quite a while because I put it at 600 DPI, and these are 50 megabyte or 50 megapixel files to begin with. So they're rather large, but I think for your purposes, if you're shooting with a 20 megapixel camera or somewhere in that ballpark, you're probably not going to take more than a couple minutes for this to process. And that is pretty much how to make a contact sheet.